So I've been a health psychologist specializing in pain and medical trauma for like 25 years. And almost every time I tell someone what I do for a living, I get comments that remind me of just how many people on the planet are taught and believe really unhelpful myths around pain. Now, look, I get it. Not everyone is as big of a geek as myself and is super into the science of pain, but the problem comes when it's those beliefs that are actually causing pain and much more than is actually necessary. So knowing the facts instead of the misconceptions opens up all sorts of fun opportunities to avoid a lot of unnecessary suffering for you, for your kids, for your family, for everyone, including, by the way, if you happen to be one of those amazing healthcare providers that we love so much out there, for your patients too. So yeah, let's discuss. So what do I mean that myths cause pain? Well, let me give you an example. When I first started the Meg Foundation, we knew that one of the biggest challenges we faced is that most people on the planet believe the myth that the needle pain and the fear and distress and freak out around it is unavoidable, that it is just a necessary evil that one has to accept in life. When the truth is that decades, and I mean decades, of research demonstrate that there are effective strategies that are cheap, easy, and accessible. Now, it's really, really hard to hand people a solution to a problem when they're not looking for one because they don't believe the problem is solvable. That is why we have such a focus on outreach and marketing and collaboration and depend on amazing people such as yourselves, because we want people to know that there is a solution to this problem. Now, clearly this is not a money-making venture for us. If not, honestly, that'd be a questionable life decision for me. Instead, it is a avoid human suffering, make people's lives better. Won't you please join along venture for us? So the second big pain myth that causes major damage is that most people and providers think that kids' anxiety and freak out around needle procedures and medical stuff is not a big deal, and that kids and adults need to just suck it up because they'll, quote, probably forget about it anyway. Look, there is a boatload of research evidence that that just isn't true. Turns out it is a really big deal. They definitely do not forget, and that the long-term consequences of not managing that pain and fear is huge. Let's be real. What kind of healthcare decisions do you think people make? Do you think kids make about, I don't know, everything from get a vaccine, run a blood test, or do an injectable medication once they are too big for a parent or provider to hold them down? Now, at best, there's this ongoing anxiety about that influences their healthcare decisions. And at worst, there is a severe, devastating trauma that can have huge consequences. In fact, most people you know are going to have a heck of a story if you ask them about what they remember about going to the doctor as a kid and how it impacts them today. You might have a heck of a story, but test the theory. Ask them. As a matter of fact, if you have a story to tell us. We want to hear it. Comment, stitch this, share your own video, whatever it is. We want to hear about it, because you know that person that you know, the one that won't go to the doctor and that you worry about a lot, that friend or family member? Well, chances are good that the reason that they won't go is that they were traumatized by a bad experience, probably one that happened as a kid. And they run the risk of being like my good friend, who ended up dying of stage 4 cancer because he waited for 6 months after symptoms showed up to go get a blood test. Now, even right now, you might be thinking that's crazy, that's BS, there's no way that's true. Just suck it up and go to get the blood test. But people do that. They do it every day. That story is in no way, shape, or form unique, as much as I wish it was, because the trauma is real and frustratingly avoidable. So yeah, those first two pain myths cause an unbelievable amount of suffering and pain that is unnecessary and kind of hard to get your mind around. But honestly, that just scratches the surface about harmful myths about pain. Though we'll get into this more with later videos, those myths and false beliefs undoubtedly play a huge role in the systemic racism in healthcare. Now, case in point, Research shows that 50 to 73% of medical students and residents will endorse that they believe false statements around racial differences in pain. Like, what? And this undoubtedly plays a role in that if you happen to be Black, that you are so much more likely to have your pain underassessed, underestimated, and undertreated. Now, fun fact, that is true for both adults and kids. Horrifying. Now, another huge myth that causes huge problems is the myth that pain is simply a biological process that is the result of tissue damage in the body. Yeah, so this one causes huge amounts of unnecessary suffering and cuts off treatment options, especially for the millions of people in the world who suffer from chronic pain. Now, understanding the truth that every bit of the research would tell us that pain is a biological, psychological, and social experience opens up huge opportunities for more ways of treating pain and healing. So yeah, truth, really important on this one. So the next problematic myth is the myth that pain is the same for everyone, which can be further from the truth. Sex, age, gender, previous trauma history, previous pain history, and on and on and on. All of these factors change the way we experience pain. And pretending otherwise and pretending that the same treatment is going to get the same treatment outcome for everyone is bluntly kind of nuts and really blinds people and their providers from what could be much more effective treatment. Now, this one plays directly into the stunningly common, but also pretty darn ridiculous myth that if something hurts more than your doctor thinks it should, then it clearly means you're wrong and you're crazy. It's not crazy. It's quite literally how we are designed and how we work. But this myth, this one, well, that's been used to facilitate medical gaslighting probably since the beginning of time. So the myth that doctors know all there is to know about pain and pain management, that's a pretty dangerous game. Now, the statistics would say that over the entire course of medical training in the United States, all of those years of being trained as doctors, they only get about 7 to 10 hours of direct pain instruction. To put that in context, veterinarians need to get about 150 hours of pain education. Now, not very long ago, I was consulting at a major hospital, and I stood in a room of about 50 residents and fellows. Those are people at the very end of their medical training. And I asked them a couple questions. I asked them if any of them could describe the biopsychosocial model of pain, the one that is absolutely accepted and used in all of the pain world, and 3 hands went up. I then asked them the statistic I just mentioned about that only 7 to 10 hours of instruction and asked if any of them think they got any more. Yeah, that would be 0 hands that went up. I then asked them what was the number one reason that they were going to be called to the bedside today in the hospital, and what was the number one thing that brought people and brought patients into the outpatient clinic. Spoiler alert, the answer, of course, is pain. So clearly the medical training system needs to play catch up, because it's not that doctors and medical providers don't care. They clearly do, but it's important to understand that they might not have the information. They might simply not know. And we need to understand that when we're prepared to advocate for ourselves and our kids and our families. So all of this brings us to our last harmful pain myth of the day. And don't worry, we'll be back with more, because goodness knows there's more to know. But here's that last one. The myth that doctors are going to be mad or upset if you speak up. If you speak up to what you need to make yourself or your kid more calm and comfortable. Or you're worried that that means that they're going to be mad and not provide as good medical care. And we hear this all the time. But here's the truth. And I know a lot of doctors, and they reach out to us a lot. They won't, assuming that we are all the respectful, lovely humans that most of us are, they're not going to be mad. They want to work with you. Because you have to remember, we all have the same goal. Everyone wants your child to have the best, most comfortable, most positive healthcare experience with the best healthcare outcome. And to do that, and to do that well, they're going to need to hear from you. They're going to need to hear your voice. Your voice is necessary. And I gotta say, if you come across that rare doc that is upset or is mad, well then, I gotta tell you, you've learned something. Mostly you've learned that you definitely need to find a new doctor because there's way too much ego going on in that situation to be able to provide you good care. So that's it for today. More mess coming because you want that information, I promise you. Because you want that information to make your life better and to make your child's life better. We're here for that.